Here we go.
All right. Hey, welcome.
Thanks.
We're back.
Welcome. We are back.
Yeah. Healthier Ever After podcast. I'm Greg Camp. This is Rick Sorensen. We are going to be talking about something pretty cool today. We're going to be talking about, we've talked about it a little bit before, but we wanted to dive in a little bit and kind of geek out on timed eating, intermittent fasting, and insulin, and kind of what this all means. Boy, there's so much information on it out there. And so it just deserves its own podcast.
Yeah. We could talk for a long time. We got diarrhea of the mouth when we come to this stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll try and narrow it down a little bit. Talk about some what timed eating. Yeah. People say intermittent fasting. There's, is there a difference? Is there a difference between intermittent fasting versus timed eating? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think
just dive in right now.
Yeah, I think it's good. Well, I'm going to do the disclaimer since we didn't do that yet. Just, really, this is a podcast. It's for information and educational purposes only. We're not your medical providers. If we are, fantastic. Talk to us in clinic about this. But this is for that. This is just for information and educational purposes only. We definitely recommend you talk to your healthcare professional about, starting a weight loss program, changing anything with vitamins, nutrients, exercise, all the things. So we don't want anyone to go out there and just base everything on this. We hope that you can take this information and take it to your healthcare provider and discuss it. Discuss it.
Talk about it.
Yeah. So, and if that ends up being us at one point, great. But we don't expect that. We just want to do this because this is a labor of love for us.
Yep.
We just like talking about this stuff and giving, hopefully, people, patients, whatever you consider yourself, good information.
Yep.
So yeah, let's talk about timed eating, intermittent fasting. These terms are oftentimes used interchangeably, and it really just the biggest focus for a long time in weight loss and in health was more of a based on calorie restriction, right? Is just like how many calories do I take in a day? What actually matters? For a while there in the 80s and early 90s, it was just don't eat things, just low fat, right? Even the government got on board with that. And it was a low fat. We found sense. I mean, the obesity numbers skyrocketed when the mantra was just don't eat as much fat.
The obesity numbers have gone up with about every single program the government has instituted.
You're right. The latest one actually is probably one that more of us can, and whether we don't want to get into politics, but the latest one that released actually probably falls more in line with what we believe to be the more reasonable food pyramid. And it kind of honestly reversed the old food pyramid. So you can check that out if you want. But once again, probably the government, maybe not the best place to get your nutritional or information, like maybe just talk with a medical provider. But the truth is that like there's always been these big fads of like reduce your fat intake and that's going to be the answer, reduce calorie intake. But we found that is like just saying saying reduce your calorie intake, there can be some benefits there, but how do you functionally do that without a calorie counting app and can you be on a calorie counting app for your whole life,
all day, every day?
It's just even counting macros. There's some benefits there. I would argue that if you count your macros the rest of your life, you probably do pretty good. Have you ever tried to count macros for extended periods of time? It's not for the average person, for the average human being that doesn't want to get into that. So timed eating or intermittent fasting is a way that, even though the concept itself, sometimes we can dive in and get more complex with it. It really is a simplified way of saying, hey, I'm going to eat between these hours and these hours. Like the more common one is a 16-8. So I fast for 16 hours. That sounds like a really long time, but you have an 8-hour eating window and that's whatever window you kind of decide. So a lot of people will skip breakfast. That's the more traditional one. They'll start eating around 11 or noon, maybe around that lunchtime period. And then they go about 8 hours. So they finish off with dinner. So let's say around 6 or 7 at night, and then they stop again and they do that 16-hour fast. 8 of those hours, hopefully, is when you're sleeping. So that does make it easier. The other common one is like a 5-2, sometimes even a 6-1, a 4-3, and all that indicates is not hours. That's actually days. Yeah. So eating somewhat normal, whatever that means, right? On the non-fasting days, but then having really 24-hour fast for 1, 2, or 3 days in a week for this big reset. We'll talk about some of the benefits of that. We'll talk about our own personal experience of doing that. And we'll just dive into all of it and why it matters and how it affects insulin and why calories in, calories out. It's a good concept, but it doesn't take into account like real life. and it doesn't take into account insulin.
Well, and we've talked about this. I mean, we've mentioned this before, but if it's just calories in, calories out, which again, we are fans of that. I mean, if you're going to lose weight, you need to eat less calories and you burn the calories that you have stored. And that has to happen. But it's not just as simple as I'm going to eat less calories because the type of calories you eat, the timing of the calories you eat, it changes. And really it's the physiology. It's the way your body is designed. Our bodies are not designed to change. like it sees something, you're dying, you're killing part of it. We talked about this before. But the other thing is the way we're designed to eat. We're not designed to just be constantly eating. It's like sit down, have a meal, you have a stomach, you fill it, and then your body works with that for a while. And then you don't eat while it's doing that. And so it's a lot of times this constant, like I'm going to eat breakfast, and then I get a little snack, and I go, there's a donut at the break room, and I got a cup of coffee, and I got a sip of my soda throughout the day, and like whatever the soda sipping is this constant flow of calories that signal your body store fat, right? All day long, and you never turn that signal off. And whether it's how many calories or not, it's the timing and composition of those calories sometimes. I mean,
even if you're eating, let's pretend for a moment you're not drinking sodas and you're even generally eating, let's even just say that you're eating pretty healthy. If you start eating, and we've talked about this before, if you start eating when you wake up in the morning at 7 a.m. and you don't go to bed till 11 and you stop eating at that point, even if you were eating relatively clean, can you really consume calories for that many hours, extended period of time, even if you're just snacking, even if it's smaller portions? Can you really consume significantly like calories, the amount of calories you need to be able to lose weight and or even maintain your current weight if you're eating all day long? Now, all right, that's in a perfect situation where you're saying you're eating all the good things. Most of us, most real people, right, are not just eating fruits and veggies and meat all day.
Broccoli.
Right. We're going to have some of the processed foods. We're going to have some of the sugars and some of the sweets and all that. And so, sure. If you can,
and that's not the end of the world.
No, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. It has to be within reason.
Right.
And you have to be willing to kind of accept that's not going to be good for you, and it's going to spike your glucose.
What it's going to do, you have to recognize that and mitigate it.
Yeah, but there's things that we're going to talk about with fasting and that can hopefully really help with some of that stuff, knowing that you're not going to maybe eat perfect. We'll talk about maybe reducing sugar, but that doesn't mean never have ice cream again. It just means probably get the mini size and not the large.
Yeah. Well, and so to the point that we're talking about timing as well, we'll get in a little more, but like, a bowl of ice cream might be better with dinner. Yeah. As opposed to right before bedtime.
Sure.
Like there's a difference between that.
Yeah.
And a lot of this comes from a lot of what I found helpful is reading the book, The Obesity Code, by a guy named Fung. He's fascinating. He holds no punches against all of the government programs, all of the, the calories in, calorie out, move. Like he's like, look, all these things were done, and obesity, look at what obesity has done over the last 50 years. It's done nothing but increase. Yeah. And so a lot of this comes from kind of that thing. And he talks a lot about insulin, how insulin is the king. I agree with that. Like insulin is the master switch in the body. It signals to store fat. So you get a spike in insulin. If there's insulin in your body, what that tells your body to do is, I'm going to take these calories, I'm going to save them for later. Yeah. And that means I'm going to store them in fat.
Yeah, and we know what it stores as, and it's not anything we want.
Right.
And insulin is just a hormone. When people talk about hormones, they typically are talking about the sex hormones, right? Your testosterone, your estrogen, things like that. And we talk about how much they affect your body and how big of a deal these are. Well, I would say the hormone even more effective and that can affect those sex hormones, including decreasing them, is insulin. Insulin is that hormone. It is a hormone that can drive hunger up. It's a hormone that can actually increase inflammation when it's in excess. It's one that obviously is the primary responsibility of the body is to, when it releases insulin, is it goes and finds that sugar, it pulls it out of the bloodstream, and what does it do? It stores everything. Yeah. Now, our bodies are designed to do this because it's not always been 2026. We didn't always have food in abundance. We couldn't always have the luxury of eating from the start of the day till the end of the day because of preservatives and refrigeration and never having to hunt and gather for food. So
and because Reese's eggs, because it's coming up
because
on
they're
Easter.
just, oh boy, they're so good. They're so good.
I keep saying the Reese's eggs have protein, right? They have to. They're made of peanuts.
They must.
They've got to have protein. So,
don't read the label, but they must.
Insulin, so insulin, it's the master switch, and it tells you to think. So the problem oftentimes of obesity really isn't just the calories that you eat; it's the insulin that your body is using, and so it's a too much insulin problem.
Yeah,
and maybe talking about this timing on the meals is how really it comes down to how we regulate insulin and what kinds of things. Frequent eating is something that will increase insulin, especially snacking throughout the day, sipping on the soda, refined carbs and sugar, and processed food. So your body responds as far as insulin goes, a big insulin spike, it responds differently. If you eat 100 calories of table sugar versus 100 calories of broccoli, they're both 100 calories, but your body responds differently. The sugar will spike your insulin much more. That. And so you can eat calories that don't cause this insulin effect as much.
Right. Yeah. We know that a lot of people, we're not a big fan of necessarily keto. There's some benefits to keto, but keto is just that, right? You're taking down the foods that spike insulin. So the idea behind keto is your body goes into ketosis. Your insulin is much lower, your insulin resistance goes way down. So I've had some patients that have used keto just for a little bit of what we'll call a reset and actually find that is really cool and interesting. And I know there's data that goes back and forth. So I don't know really whether to tell you the data supports it or doesn't support it. But overall, the hard thing with keto is that you just really can't get all the nutrition, because you have to eliminate certain foods.
It seems like in real world, in people that I've seen, in clinic and whatnot, they've had a lot of success that people really like that for a month.
Yeah.
It helps. It's I got reset. I got, a lot of things. I feel good. I lost a bunch of weight even, but after about a month, nobody in the real world that I know really sticks to that after it seems like about a month.
Yeah.
It's like that was good, but I'm done.
There's a wedding that comes up and you're like, I can have one piece of cake. And then all of a sudden,
you're done.
Well, and then what happens, right? Your body responds in such a wild way because you've had this low insulin, this really well-managed glucose. And then all of a sudden you go and start with the birthday cake, which ends up leading to, some soda that night. And then you kind of just, even if you go back to a really kind of a standard way of eating with just a normal amount of carbs, your body goes into full bore shock mode.
You are so hungry.
You're hungry and your insulin, you feel like it's out of control because you've enjoyed the benefits of having that lower baseline insulin. And you're like, wow, I'm not hungry and my energy's awesome and all these things. And then all of a sudden you put your body in a shock. So that's why we really don't promote that. It's not that there's not some, some arguable benefits.
Well, it goes back to our mantra. We want sustainable changes, not this shock to the system that has potential for a big rebound.
Yeah. And no extremes, right? Because most of us can't live in the extremes, right? No. If you're one of the 5 million people that can live on keto, that's good for you. You're probably the exception, not the norm. Yeah. So it's, so getting back to kind of your point about insulin and really in fasting, the idea behind the obesity code is really to have longer periods of not releasing insulin.
Right. Yeah. Long periods of time that your body's not exposed to high insulin levels.
Which is, we know, just storing. And that's where fasting comes in. And why intermittent fasting has become so popular is because we know that just based on the numbers, right? You're just going to consume, if you only eat 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day, or whatever fasting window you decide that you wanted to do, we just know that, during those non-eating hours, those fasting hours, you're not going to be spiking your insulin.
Right.
And that's why it can be beneficial. Not to mention, we know that you just can't consume as many calories in 6 hours as you could in 16 hours that you would otherwise be eating. So when you combine the two things, you really end up with this kind of beautiful marriage of I eat less calories when I am eating calories, I'm not spiking insulin all day long. I'm spiking insulin for a short amount of time. Hopefully during the middle of the day. We really think that's
When you're
best.
active.
I mean, when you're active, when you're moving, when the sun's up, right? Your body knows when the sun's up. And that's when your body's expecting to be able to not only be taking in calories, but then burning those calories. You know, you don't want to put the, firewood when the fire's low. You want to go when the fire's burning hot. And so, yeah, I mean, really, it's just that's what the obesity code is. We're going to hit on a few other points about insulin and how that all works within the body and why it matters.
Yeah. So it's not just what you eat, but how often you eat, or sometimes I guess I might say that is how constantly you eat.
Yeah.
Because that's really even worse than too frequent meals. It's just that grazing all day long. It's having a little snack on the thing. It just keeps telling your body, depending on what you're eating, but it tells your body, hey, I need to store this.
Do you remember there was a fad? It still gets brought up in clinic to me. You probably hear about it as well. There's a fad where it was like, hey, you shouldn't be eating big meals in the day. You should be eating 6 to 8 small meals.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is like the anti.
It's the worst.
It's the worst.
It's a bad idea.
I mean, it only gained popularity for a very short amount of time because the idea was that, hey, you kick up your metabolism when you eat. You do. Okay, so
yeah. Do you know who was a huge proponent of the 6 to 8 small meals a day? Snack food companies.
Oh, 100%. They're like, yeah, let's do this.
Like that's exactly like this is a great idea.
Yeah.
Cheetos.
It was no one that had any interest in you losing weight or being healthy.
We want to sell you small packages of processed foods.
I got to be honest with you.
You can eat all day long.
I loved it when they came out with that. I'm like, you mean I got to eat 6 to 8 times a day, and that's how I'm going to get skinny?
Yes.
I'm signing up for that. Now, the theory behind that was just that you kick up your metabolism every time you eat, and so they're saying, hey, you eat a bunch of times in a day, you consume a few hundred calories, but then you burn that in metabolism. What they found is what we already kind of knew, but like once again, like Rick said, it was a good sales tactic. What it ended up finding is that, yeah, you may be burning an extra 50 calories because you're eating more regularly because you do fire up your metabolism when you eat. The problem is that you burn 50 extra calories, but you consumed 300 additional calories. So I'm sorry, that math doesn't add up. You're still at a surplus of 250 calories. And then when you break it down further,
because you have insulin.
Yeah. So then you're like spiking your insulin every single 2 hours. So along with the obesity code, I mean, your body never gets a break. Your pancreas is constantly pumping out insulin. So what is your body doing to all that? It's just storing all of it.
That's the signal that you're sending your body is store this energy. Yeah. Store this energy. And you never give your body a chance to work through that and say, you know what? I need to use what I have.
Yeah.
As opposed to store more. And I mean, and you look at numbers in the United States of America right now.
Yeah.
And it is not an exaggeration when they talk about the obesity epidemic.
Yeah. It is an epidemic.
Way too many people are way too overweight.
Yep. And it's killing far more people.
Kills tons of people.
We freaked out about COVID. I mean, rightfully so, right? It was a huge pandemic. This is killing far more people. And the reaching effects is far more significant. Yeah. And at least in COVID, we were saying, hey, look, like the young people don't seem to be affected as much. The obesity epidemic right now is so much worse now in younger people. They're finding that literally the number, I could be quoting this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty close to accurate. And the only reason I say that, I mean, me and Rick, prior veterans, the number one reason for people getting denied for military service, the recruitment numbers were 110%, right? The number one reason, obesity. They couldn't pass the basic physical fitness standards or they had a BMI that was so high. Right. Now these are generally speaking younger people, and this is what caused the military to actually go and the Army specifically to increase the enlistment age to 42 recently. And because I was looking into that, I'm like, why would they do that? They found that like so many people, young people, either had comorbid conditions, so those is like diseases that would stop them from getting in the military, and or obesity that would require. So they're like, we get tons of people coming in to sign up, and they don't qualify.
They can't get in. They don't meet the qualifications.
This is not a problem we've had. 20 years ago, this was like every once in a while a guy would, or guy or gal would not be able to enlist because of this. This was not like a well, really the problem it is now. And
And
so
not everyone is David Goggins. It can go from
Sure.
like 300 to about 40 in
Sure.
6 weeks or something like that.
yeah, well, I mean, he's definitely the exception. And so it really comes down to, hopefully something like this is like, as we see this trend towards people wanting to live longer and be healthier, hopefully we see a big swing of the pendulum,
Yeah.
where it swings back and people are like very
Well-
cognizant of like their insulin response, and that you can't eat all day and,
Yeah.
and expect to lose weight.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about, like, this is not just an older adult problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it was only 2 or 3 years ago, even now, that, we talk about the GLP-1 medications, and the American Academy of Pediatrics
Yep.
recommended them starting a couple years ago
Huge.
for patients down to like 12 or even 10
Yeah.
or 8, like young
Yeah,
kids.
I mean, 12 GLP-1s down to age 12. I mean, they're looking at it even lower.
Yeah, because the American Academy of Pediatrics recognizes that this fact that there are far too many overweight kids, and overweight kids grow up to be overweight adults,
correct.
and overweight adults die early from multiple disease processes.
And it's just the data.
Yeah.
This is not bias. This isn't fat shaming people.
No.
As two guys that are always working on themselves and both have lost weight and all the things that we can do, we recognize that this is not a point our finger and say, you're bad kids or bad parents or anything like that. This is just an information problem. It's a too much junk food readily available problem. It's people not understanding really basic biology of how their body responds.
Yeah, right.
I mean, their body is going to release insulin every time. Insulin is not the enemy. You need insulin, but if you too excess insulin is the enemy. Excess glucose is the enemy, because the two work hand in hand. So, just trying to get that all dialed in. And sometimes for a lot of people, really the timing of eating, working on something like a fast or and figuring that out, so that you're just not consuming calories all day, so you can give your pancreas a rest and get the insulin a rest, or having maybe a couple of days where you're doing these like 24-hour water fasts, where you're just getting, and please, once again, talk to your medical professional before you do this, because there is a specific way to do this. This is not just starve yourself for 24 hours, right? There's a way to do this. So, but looking at doing that so that you can kind of reset and help your body not just pump out insulin all the time.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. And I mean, that's kind of, we hear about the diet culture, and you talk about low fat diets, talk about calories in, calories out. And a lot of those things, like low fat diet, for example, you cut out fats, but you tend then to have higher refined carbohydrates or
carbs.
sugars. There's, yo-yo dieting, you kind of do these extremes, then you don't. And that never really gives your body a chance to adapt and work out how to use the calories that you have stored rather than store more. And it doesn't ever kind of reset that body weight thermostat, I guess.
The generations that were affected from low fat diets, I mean, it'll be generational for, so many people that feel like fat was the enemy. And yes, we know like fried foods and things like that are definitely not great, and we're not promoting that. But I'm saying fats in general, in a lot of cases, are not only a really important part of our diet, but actually help us feel fuller longer, get fuller faster, and stay fuller longer. It's actually one of the ways that your body actually recognizes being full, and then actually releasing our own GLP-1. So, proteins and fats are a huge part of that. No carbohydrates. That's why you can eat bowl after bowl of ice cream or cereal and all that stuff. And eventually maybe you'll fill up, but it's really why you feel like you're at a bottomless pit when you're eating only carbs. And it's because you're not going to ever release those peptides and or hormones that say, hey, it's time to dial it back. In fact, even worse, you're going to be spiking your insulin and sugars.
We're going to store this quick.
And go ahead and keep on eating more. And so it's just,
So most diets, I would say, fail because they fight your biology rather than working with it.
That's a good point.
That's I think what we're talking about, this timing of meals. Is we want to work with your biology. We want to help utilize this hunger and storage hormone in a way that lets you then also utilize its absence.
Well, and I think
effectively.
That just kind of brings up a kind of a related thought, but almost an independent thought, is that, and our bodies that are not the same as they were when they're 15, as when you're 18, as when you're 25, as when you're, get into your 40s and 50s, where me and Rick are at. I mean, we realize that our bodies are changing. And I do think sometimes adaptation to your changing body, rather than fight it, rather than sit here and go like, I don't like that my body's like this and fight that. Sometimes actually just adapting to your changing body is such an important thing to recognize. Hey, things are, maybe you can't eat what you used to be able to eat. Maybe you've never had a problem with your weight, but now you're getting into your 40s and boy, now I'm like actually getting a belly and things are not. So if that's the case, then obviously you need to adapt to your changing body. Don't be mad at your body for that. Just look at it and go, hey, look, I've gotten a free pass up until this point. Good for you if you haven't fought it earlier on. Now you are fighting it. You need to adapt to your changing body. Yeah. And insulin, and that's why we're talking about time of eating, insulin and sugars. These are all parts of that. If you want to be able to crack that code to your changing body, you're going to have to at some point look at these things and know, like, how does this affect me?
Yeah, no, and that's helpful. And as your body ages and it reacts differently to different things, the thing that stays is there's the way to think about it is it's like a thermostat in your house, right? Like you set it at 72 degrees, and so if it's like too cold, it'll heat up a little bit to get back there. If it's too hot, it'll cool down to get to and it kind of sets it at that point. Your body has, you think about that, it has kind of a weight thermostat. Your body thinks it has this weight that it's supposed to be at, and usually that's like where it is. Yeah. Right. And so as we're trying to decrease that, your body at some point recognizes that as like, hey, wait a second, my thermostats, I need to get back up. I need to regain this weight. That's just your body trying to get back to its set point. Yeah. And part of what this is talking about is these prolonged periods of decreased insulin. That allows your body to reset that thermostat. Yeah. We want your body ultimately, as you make these sustainable lifestyle changes, is you bring down your weight, but what we also want to have happen as an effect of that is to reset and have your body recognize, hey, you know what, this new weight is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm not going to fight that anymore. And so it's there's a whole lot that goes into this. It's just working with your body and making your body work with you, and to reset that kind of thermostat rather than keep it clear up here. And that's the other thing that resetting that down is another thing that managing insulin and timing on meals is effective.
Absolutely. I want to reiterate that and to put it in like a real world circumstance. So, because what Rick's talking about is when this is how I see it in patients, right? They're coming in, they're losing some weight, and they commonly will actually have this weight in mind. They just don't actually realize what they're kind of saying. They're like, look, I've done all the fat diets and I get down to 180 pounds and they are set. They get to 180 pounds and they're like, I'm never able to drop below 180. And they don't, like, their goal is 150 and they are so frustrated by the time they grind their wheels. So, and I will tell you with almost a surety, every time they get to that weight, I don't know if it's a mental thing, but it's also that set point that Rick's talking about, that thermostat in your body that just says, look, this is the weight I think I'm supposed to be at. I'm not supposed to drop below here. And I think at that point is actually when the body's hitting that panic button going like, hey, what's going on? I'm supposed to be actually 220. You got me down to 180. And they just will not, your body, no matter what you do, they're like telling me I'm exercising and I'm eating just like you told me to, and I'm taking my medication and all those things. They just won't go below 180 pounds. And so a lot of times, like when we're on that, on a plateau, which we've talked about here before, is a lot of times it is just changing up things, including one thing that me and Rick have talked about is doing a little bit of a reset, going on a 24 or 48, even 72-hour fast to give your body a new reset.
And again, that's not starvation.
Nope.
That's a deliberate fast. Talk to your doctor.
Yep. Staying hydrated. This is a food fast.
Water.
Yeah. You
water
drink water.
Or bone broth.
It's a specific way, but the point of that is that that's how we see it. And so if you've ever been in that situation where you're like, oh, gosh, I got this set point and it's very frustrating and we've maxed out my medication, or I'm not on medications, I want to do this the good old fashioned way. Good for you, but then understand your biology and understand that, like, a lot of us have a set point that we're like, gosh, I get to this point and it just won't go any further. Well, to keep on doing the same thing and expecting different results is not going to change. Yeah. So you need to take a look at your insulin. You need to take a look at when you're eating, how you're eating, and start changing some things there that I think that a lot of times will change that set point. I've seen it in clinic, and patients get below that who cares? We're using 180, for example. They get that. And when the scale reads 179, it's almost like not only physically, but mentally, they're like, oh, okay, I've done it. I've passed that point. I've never been able to get to this point. And now they find a new motivation because they're like, I've actually done it.
Yeah.
So I really think it's important to pay attention to where your body's kind of trying to be and fight you when it gets there. And rather than fight your body, like figure out like, hey, where am I messing up? Like where am I going wrong here? Yeah. Assuming that you don't have any other diseases or problems or thyroid issues or, that are keeping you there.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, I guess the way to think about that is fasting isn't just starving yourself. It's not just depriving yourself. It is more of a strategic eating pattern that is deliberate.
Yeah.
And I would say even deliberate eating and deliberate not eating.
Yeah.
During different periods of the day. And so it's not just extreme dieting. It's just it's being very purposeful and deliberate about the timing of when and what you eat and when and what you don't.
Absolutely. Can I go, I want to go sideways here for a minute, just because what Rick brought up there is that the biggest worry that we get from patients, even ourselves, me and Rick have talked about this, is that we thought that if you fasted for 12 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, however long, that you'd be starving. And that your energy would just, you'd feel like you just have to lay on the couch and be like, oh, is my fast over? What's interesting is when you do this, going into it with the right mindset, making sure you're staying hydrated, making sure that, obviously a week or whatever leading up to it, that you're feeding your body good nutrients. You're not just, eating ho-hos because you're going to be like, fasting for 72 hours.
It's a bad start.
Yeah, bad start. But, we've actually found exactly the opposite. And I'll share my experience when I've done shorter fasts, like 24-hour fasts. I found that actually cognitively, I am a guy that suffers from, being 52 thoughts at a time. And so you call it ADD, you call it whatever you want. I found that cognitively, I was much more focused and concentrated. I actually found my energy levels were better, not worse. I actually found like instead of hitting that afternoon crash, it was oftentimes when I would feel more energy, which I wasn't used to. So it's interesting that you think you're going to feel one way because you're going without food. And my experience has been that, boy, like during the fast, I mean, especially towards the end, I'm like, I almost didn't want to eat because I felt so good during the fast.
Yeah. Well, and again, we don't want to make this too long. These need to be have not too long episodes, but to that end, like when you are talking about, I felt like I was going to feel bad, but I didn't. Really, if you look at some of the studies, like during these fasts, if you do this correctly and you are not consuming, you're staying hydrated, you're doing that well, your blood sugar, your body maintains your blood sugar. It's not like you're dying and starving to death. Your body, and that's because your body it gets to a point where it's recognizing, hey, I need to keep the energy level up, and it's getting it from its own storage, not from the food you would have been eating had you been grazing all day long.
Sure.
And ultimately, that's the biggest effect that we want your body to be able to learn and take advantage of is how to keep that energy up and keep feeling good and keep providing all the things you need to do the things that you do. And I'm going to even go to the gym and not feel this big tank because my body knows how to get me the nutrient energy that it needs even without me eating that.
Yeah. And your body doesn't do that by accident. No. It is actually designed to be able to say there's going to be times of eating. There's going to be sometimes even long periods of not eating.
And your activity can keep going.
Yeah. This may surprise you, but back before, in the olden days, I mean, people would go extended periods.
When there were apothecaries.
Right. Yeah. The people would go long periods of time without eating. And so this is not new to your body. Don't worry. You can go longer than 4 hours without eating. I promise you're not going to starve in that time. The truth is that a lot of, a lot of times we think that our bodies are not built for that. Our bodies are designed to go for longer periods without eating. And arguably there's many benefits to that. So we dove into some of those. Yeah. We do want to, we're over our time, but we want to do our supplement of the week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the reason why we wanted to do this supplement in particular is because not only do we find that a ton of people are deficient in this supplement or this vitamin, but also it kind of does help truly with when you're doing a fast, and that's vitamin D. So I just have this, kind of pulled it up on my phone because I didn't want to forget anything, but it definitely helps with insulin sensitivity, which we've been talking about, immune regulation. So oftentimes people do not realize this. In fact, we learned a lot more about this during COVID, that people that had low vitamin D levels that got COVID tended to do worse.
Poorly, yeah.
And so we found that was a big problem. We found that like a bunch of people were low on vitamin D. This wasn't something we were all regularly checking before. Now it's part of like your standard labs with your primary care physician. And if it's not, you should ask for it. Inflammation, and then mood, because we know that all this is all intertwined and affected. Vitamin D really acts more like a hormone in the body than it does a vitamin, even though it is just a vitamin. And we do have a great vitamin D, K2, and calcium supplement. K2 and calcium are in our vitamin D supplement primarily because absorption is a lot of times the issue with vitamin D.
Yeah.
Vitamin D, oftentimes, even if people are like, oh, I'm out in the sun all the time. I have my brother who's a pool guy that said, oh, my vitamin D got to be great. I'm a pool guy. I'm out in the sun all the time. His vitamin D was horrible. And it's because nutritionally he wasn't getting what he needed, the calcium K2, as well as vitamin D that had just gone down. He doesn't hardly drink any milk anymore. So the point is that vitamin D is a great supplement. We do have a good one on our
website,
GetWeightWise.com. Yeah. But, or find one that works for you. But it's a great supplement. It definitely helps in support of all of this. If you've never had your vitamin D levels checked, maybe the next time you're into your primary care physician.
Okay. So patients that come to the clinic and you check their vitamin D level, I mean, in my experience, I would say that seems to be from my clinical experience that's probably the most common thing that people are deficient in without knowing it.
Most common deficiency I see in clinic are vitamin D. The one thing that prompts me, I check it a lot more regularly, but actually the thing that got me checking it a lot more often, it was actually when I was in family practice, and I would have these people come in with just fatigue. Their chief complaint, what we call it in medicine, is I'm just tired all the time. And you hear this all the time, and we all feel tired at times. But I would, as part of my fatigue workup, I would check a thyroid level. We'd check, blood counts to make sure they weren't anemic. And I started adding on a vitamin D because I'm finding that a lot of these people, that was their deficiency, that was their problem. Yeah. And as soon as we get their vitamin D level up, voila, they're like, oh, hey, my fatigue's gone. I'm feeling better. I'm not getting sick as often. And so I found this just anecdotally. I mean, yeah, sure, we had the data and the studies, but it was not something that was like in your face. It's a lot more on it now. But before it was just, it wasn't so obvious. And now even in my weight loss clinic, I am finding that 50% of the people I check, at least 50% are deficient in vitamin D. And this is a truly important vitamin that your body uses, and it's a fat soluble one. Actually tends to be much lower in patients that are overweight or obese. And so it's a fat soluble vitamin. It's very important. So you should get your levels checked. And if you need to be supplementing it, you should be. We'll talk about other ways to get vitamin D and things like that. We'll talk about our complete multivitamin at some point in the future. And we'll cover all that. And that does have some vitamin D as well. Yeah.
So get your vitamin D, talk to your medical provider. What we discuss here is informational and educational, but talk to your medical provider, get your vitamin D checked and talk to them about getting on a good supplement if that is appropriate for you. And we will see you next week.
See you next week.
It's awesome.